Hi everyone, it's Michael from Chess Lifestyle, and today I just finished a weekend boot camp from Modern Chess on converting a minimal advantage, and this was led by Dejan Bojkov. And yeah, it was honestly so good. Like I really cannot recommend it enough. And I mean, even though this was like a live kind of training camp where there was a lot of question and answers, you can like always download it as like a digital product and be able to rewatch all the training camp and still get access to all the exercises. But yeah, I basically went through it this weekend, and these were the different topics, right? So like these three simple guidelines to improve your end games, this how to convert an extra pawn, how to convert an extra exchange or an extra piece, and then also discussing a lot about pawn structures. And yeah, my mind was literally blown like so many times. Like I can show you guys like the notes I was making. Like I've actually got so much content as well for my students in the sense that like just such nice exercises. Like I was really like making a lot of notes on what he was saying, and there's just so many random little snippets of like gold like throughout the whole session, and just really nice exercises that led to one to another. So yeah, I just felt really good to understand like lots of like fundamental like strategies of how to achieve like certain goals that were set out in the lecture. And I really wasn't sure what to expect, but yeah, I really got a lot out of it. So let me see if I can even just summarize like maybe a couple of these. So for instance, one thing was like when evaluating in the endgame, he really made it clear that like you want to kind of prioritize the activity of the pieces, only then the activity of the king, and then your pawn structure. I'm kind of thinking like when you have an endgame position in this kind of order, this will help you a lot. And yeah, one great thing was he also clarified like the strength of a king. So he reckoned it was like between a minor piece and a rook in terms of strength. So this is quite useful. And another very useful thing he mentioned was how like in like when trying to convert a stable long-term advantage, we need three things as well. We need proper maneuvers, proper trades, and prophylaxis. And I really like how like Dejan like emphasized the word proper, because that's the whole point. It's not like just shuffling about aimlessly or just making trades like as soon as you see them. It was like kind of like thinking a bit more mindfully about like what are the proper trades, what are the proper maneuvers to actually convert the position. So just yeah, the examples here were so nice. And yeah, yeah, and there was all this discussion about like rook and two pawns against bishop and knight. Like how does it fare in the middle game? How does it fare in the end game? And I can't reveal all of these secrets, otherwise that would be doing the course dirty. Um, but yeah, there was yeah, the discussion about domination in like end games, like how this can really play a big role. Um, yeah, and some discussion as well about like bishop and knight against bishop and bishop. Some really interesting stuff about color complexes there. But yeah, the point is, yeah, just lots and lots of useful content. And the great thing with these modern chess camps is that at the end of every camp, you always get a chance to ask Petter and Grigor a Q like they hold a Q&A for half an hour. So if you've got any like burning questions, you can ask them. And normally I always set them some really difficult questions to answer, and that's kind of what I wanted this video to be about. And actually, I think Petter is busy in Rhodes for the European Women's Championship. I think that's what's happening there right now. So it was only Grigor here to answer. But yeah, basically, stay tuned for Grigor's answers to my burning questions about my own chess. So I hope you find it interesting.
Did you gain most of your chess knowledge and understanding through reading and studying, or more from experience when playing? Yeah, this is indeed a very interesting question, and it's not easy to answer at all. Uh, I think that there is nothing more useful than practice, and learning by playing is the most effective way of progressing in chess, in my opinion. That being said, reading and studying shouldn't be neglected. And personally, I have improved a lot by reading quality sources of information. But it's also very important how you read and how you organize your training process. Because if you learn in a passive way, you just take the book, you read it like a novel, then it's very difficult to progress, because in this way you gain a lot of passive knowledge, but when it comes to a practical application, you will face major difficulties. Therefore, I advocate the proactive way of learning. When you analyze a game, you can stop at some critical positions, try to understand the position on your own, try to analyze as much as possible. The the ability of analyzing well and then compare your analysis with strong computers is one of the keys to progress in chess. Uh, Always try to dedicate time to analysis, and try to make your learning process as active as possible. Did you ever have a plateau in your chess level? And if so, how did you overcome this plateau? I think every chess player had a plateau in his chess career. And there is no specific recipe when it comes to overcoming it. You should just continue working and playing. And if you work um, in a dedicated way, and if you keep progressing in the right direction, of course, this plateau will be overcame. Um, for me, I had such plateaus in chess, and I was just working. I kept working. I kept enjoying the process of playing, trying to detect my mistakes, and always the problem was resolved. My best scoring opening with black against e4 is the old-fashioned Gurgenidze modern. Is it possible to reach FM with this opening in the modern age with engines, or is it better to play an objectively better opening with black, even if it's less suited to my style? Theoretically speaking, it's quite possible to achieve this level of FIDE master with every opening, almost every opening. Indeed, this Gurgenidze system is a little bit dubious when you analyze it with modern engines, and I do not recommend to play this as your only opening, because for your opponent it will be very easy to prepare, and the element of surprise will be taken out of the table. Therefore, you can keep playing Gurgenidze from time to time, but also combine it with some other openings. I would suggest the Caro-Kann defense or French defense. Especially French defense is quite a suitable opening for one who is playing the Gurgenidze system, because it seems that you enjoy static positions with fixed pawn center, and therefore French defense will be your cup of tea, in my opinion. How many times did you switch your main opening repertoire in your playing career? Many times, and yeah, I cannot even count them. Especially nowadays, it's very difficult to maintain long-term opening repertoire, because people are preparing with strong engines, and if you play always the same opening, then it will be very difficult for you to take your opponent out of his comfort zone. Therefore, you should have in your repertoire many ideas in different openings. Also, some opening ideas that can be played just in one game are also quite useful from time to time. Nowadays, chess is becoming more and more a sport and not a science. And uh, just trying to withstand the validity of our opening concepts in modern times is a very difficult task. I have two back-to-back 9-round open tournaments planned this summer. What would be the best way to warm up for the events in the week before the first tournament? Calculation exercises. Try to calculate as much as possible, because if you haven't played in a tournament for quite some time, then the major problem will be spending time. We are becoming a bit rusty, and we'll start calculating all the variations more slowly. Therefore, solving calculation exercises and playing online blitz games to refine your opening repertoire is the best way of preparation, in my opinion. Okay, how many classical tournaments should you play a year if you want to progress to the next chess level? For example, from to 2300, and at the same time, how do you avoid burnout? Very difficult question, which is closely related to the specific chess player. For instance, playing 8, 9 tournaments per year is very useful for a professional chess player, especially if this player is quite young. For instance, I have never liked to play many tournaments. I would play one tournament in 2 months, per 2 months, and I would like to have more time for preparation, studying openings, refining my knowledge. But this is related to the player. Some players want to play more, and some players want to play less and study more. I think that I managed to answer all these questions, and that you find the answers useful.
Okay, guys, so for getting to the end of the video, I actually wanted to, summarize some more of the points from the training camp. Probably useful for me as well. So yeah, basically after day one, which is kind of what I covered at the start of the video, like day two was like discussing like more about fortresses and more about different pawn structures. And the first thing I learned about fortresses, which I guess is really obvious but wasn't obvious to me, was just the fact that when play takes place on only one side of a board, there's much more chance of a defensive fortress, because there's just less chance of a principle of two weaknesses. And it's that whole point about how when you have two weaknesses, if the weaknesses are very far apart from each other, then you can, more easily exploit them as the side that's trying to win. So when it's all on one side of a board, there's more chance of a fortress. So, I mean, I guess that's obvious, but I never thought about it. And yeah, another whole concept which I just didn't know about in the past was how uh, well, fortresses, you probably know what that is, right? It's like this kind of defensive formation that you can kind of just shuffle back and forth and hold an ideal setup where you have control of all the key squares. But you've also got this term, self-sufficient setup, which is kind of like a setup that you can take that will then lead to an automatic win. And it was really interesting to like discuss like some different examples, because I mean I've heard a lot about different fortresses and even studied some in the past, and it was good to go over some of them. But just this whole self-sufficient setup, like I knew of some, even though I didn't know it as a term, but just to like see some different ones where it was like really really easily winning. It was just so nice. It was so nice. It's basically kind of like you put your, it's like in certain rook end games and with pawns you can like put your pieces in a certain way that restricts the opponent, and basically your win is automatic. Like there's nothing they can do to stop it. So it's just really interesting to see some of these examples. Um, yeah, and then what else? What else was discussed? So um, yeah, all these notes are about specific positions, so it doesn't make sense without the positions. Um, yeah, but oh, one thing was like uh, when you are trying to convert with an extra pawn, this was a really big one, which was really interesting to me, is that you want to try and avoid your opponent from getting a fortress, right? When you have that extra pawn and you're trying to grind it out. So one way you can do that is basically by imbalancing the material. And there's one great example where basically it was like a late middle game with like several pieces on the board, and one of the key defining features was they had opposite colored bishops, but one side had an extra pawn. And what the side who was trying to win did in order to convert the extra pawn, like there's no like magical way to grind that one pawn into something like winning. But what they did was they sacrificed the opposite colored bishop for 3 pawns, which basically led to a position where it was 4 pawns against the bishop with other pieces. But this was like a winning endgame. So like these kind of transformations, you can kind of use the extra pawn to give you a bit more leverage, and this is like a really good way to convert with the extra pawn. So these kind of the examples are just so nice. Basically, of just looking at this, and then we also looked at like these typical cases of like 4 versus 3 rook end games, and learning how certain pawn formations are actually easier than others. Not just the basic like f7, g6, h5, which a lot of people know, but like some harder ones as well. And that was just super nice as well, just to go through that and get some clarity. And all like the whole lecture is all about like fixing weaknesses, and like I was really starting to develop some pattern recognition of like what kind of ways to fix weaknesses. And then like the final segment was all talking about like the isolated queen's pawn, and I have a student who is like extremely gifted at the isolated queen's pawn. And actually, for the record, he actually just became Kent under 14 champion today. I just got a message from his dad, so that's like a really big W for me as a coach, but also for him. Like, amazing credit to him. But what I really realized that like he had this gift just playing these IQP positions like absolutely amazingly, and I can't do it. Right? Like after this lecture, I feel like I have some talent at playing against IQP, but playing with the IQP, like he was just finding all these great ideas. So I mean, I was trying my best to teach him, but yeah, now after this lecture, I feel like I understand this IQP so much more, and I can really give him some nice examples and tuition in how to play it better. But I think one highlight for me going through this camp was there was this moment where basically Dejan asked like how to like set up the pieces in defense and to sort out this IQP position from the side playing against the IQP, and I kind of just spotted like the perfect configuration of the pieces like really quickly. And I just wrote the answer, and I had to write it down because like I you don't get these compliments from GMs that often. But he said, "How did you find that in seconds?" And I said something like, "Oh, must be the good teaching." And he said, "For you, you have the ingenious thinking." So this is like a really, really big compliment, and I think it's true in the sense that like certain like plans, they just come very intuitively to me. Like it didn't feel like difficult at all. But I could actually tell because Dejan showed like some of his own games, and there was a game where he played where he basically lost, and it's really interesting, and it kind of shows how human, even grandmasters can be, where like he basically made the same mistakes as a model Karpov game that he'd even studied multiple times. So it's like, for me, I feel like, if I study a game and go through all that effort, I kind of pick up on it. But for poor Dejan, like he was making the same blunders basically, and yeah, it was so refreshing to hear like a GM making these kind of mistakes and just making you remember that like okay, like they're human as well, and yet they've managed to reach this like top level. So I don't know, just gave me a lot of confidence, and I think also just from these Q&As with Grigor, just also like I think like some of these questions which I had actually had fairly simple answers, and I think like we're going in the right direction. And definitely I'm gonna really consider this like calculation training like just before the two tournaments. Maybe I'll try and set something up like some in-person calculation training work. I think that would be really cool. But yeah, that is everything from me. Thank you always to the Patreon subscribers and YouTube members for supporting these videos. And honestly, guys, we are on 3,975 watch hours. So actually, just by you simply finishing this video and hopefully giving a like on the video, this will probably boost me into monetization. So we're almost there, guys. So thank you so much for, following this journey of mine. And yeah, I guess I'll keep seeing you guys in our daily streams. And yeah, hopefully more interesting content on its way.